With you yet again on a beautiful, amazing Friday morning at the end of another tiresome week. It's been beautiful to be with you, and it all starts now. It is awesome to be alive. At about 10:40 Eastern Time, our Canadian men face off against Finland in the semifinals, and we'll see how that all goes down, shall we? It'll be a fun time, so we're gonna make sure we try to finish here on time today so we can get ourselves set for that. That'll be a good time. But as well, there's a lot that's been going on. You know, there's a lot that the media in Canada wants us to focus on. There's a lot that's happening that they don't want us to focus on. And we'll be discussing all the stuff they don't want us to focus on today. What they want us to focus on, what they continue to cover, is the Matt Genereux floor crossing. Boring. We want to focus on what is happening with our trade deals. We want to focus on what's happening with our livelihoods and jobs in this country. We want to focus on what actually impacts people's lives and not the drama of Ottawa. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Yesterday, you would have seen that Donald Trump is now doing rallies again as he gets ready for these midterms this year, trying to shore up some type of support, as it's been a bit of a tough go for his administration lately. And well, we'll see how this all goes. So we'll be just covering more so specifically him taking aim at Canada, which shows me one thing. Him bringing Canada into a very hostile speech shows me that, oh baby, he is gearing up for these trade talks, and they're going to bring it, and I hope Carney brings it for the sake of our country. I'll tell you that much. So that's one. And then two is what we're seeing the Canadian response to be. And honestly, it's a little disheartening. It's making me realize the amount of work that's in front of us, and I really need to make sure that we continue doing that work. So that is number two. And number three is we're starting to see more Canadian issues starting to be talked more widespread across more American media down south of the border, and that's also not good news for us. Could be good news, depends on your perspective on it. We'll be discussing that. So much more. Reg will be here momentarily, but before any further ado, welcome to the Elevate Report. I'm your host, Josh. If you get any value from today's episode, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us to grow. It helps us to get to new audiences and helps people see that there's something different than what the mainstream media has to offer. Shout out the chat. You guys are awesome. I'm seeing locations from Ottawa. I'm seeing Southwestern Ontario. I'm seeing Alberta. I'm seeing all of it, folks. You guys are fantastic. Now let's get into our first story, shall we? So, as I said, Donald Trump doing campaign-style rallies in Georgia and getting ready for these midterms upcoming this year. And he was talking about and touting how awesome his tariff plans have been, what they mean to the country. And of course, this is Donald Trump. And of course, he's going to give his flair and flavor to what he sees things going on. But more so, pay attention to the last 10 seconds of what I show you here. This is mighty interesting.
Are right now playing out in cities all around the country, towns, villages, all over the country. And to think I have to be in the United States Supreme Court for many, many months waiting for a decision on tariffs. Without tariffs, this country would be in such trouble right now. Without tariffs, this country would be like your company was 2 years ago. What a difference it made. And you know who brought the cases against us? People that are China-oriented, people that have business in China that want to rip us off and keep ripping us off, and the tariffs have stopped us. And not only China, other countries too. People from other countries like Canada and others, they sue us. Canada has ripped us off for years. Not anymore, they're not.
That's no mistake, my friends. So we've talked about in the show quite frequently, the battle between globalism and nationalism, Donald Trump and NATO allies, in terms of how he wants to reorient global trade and how they want to keep the status quo because they get rich in the process, like Mark Carney and his network of friends. That's the battle we're seeing at this present time. And what he did just there is something you should take very close note of. He said, you know, the likes of these business people in America who fight against my tariff plan, they're globalists. He didn't say that, but they're globalists. They want to do more trade with China because they get rich off of gutting the American worker, sending those jobs to China, getting it done for cheap slave labor, and bringing it back to the United States. That's the stuff he's trying to stop from happening and restore the value of the dollar for people to earn back in the U.S. That's what he's referring to there. They're China-oriented, he says. And he talked about how China rips them off, this, that, the other. No more. It was no mistake that shortly after he brings up China, he brings up Canada. That was no mistake, and something you should take pay very close attention to. Because we've talked about in this show, and you know at this point, anyone who watches this show, or ones like ours who follow Sam Cooper's work, knows how tight and close we are with the likes of China. Michael Ma being the latest iteration of that whole story. And, well, the American administration, I believe this is Donald Trump letting us know in a very coded way that he sees what's happening, and he's going to be bringing that to the trade negotiations with Canada. And as I said, I want to get a good trade deal with the U.S. because I think it's good for our economy and good for our people here. However, I don't have a whole lot of faith in the people that are negotiating it on our behalf right now. The fact that this negotiation has taken so long when I was promised summer of last year to be taken care of. And now we're here hanging in the balance with a country that fundamentally is increasingly hating America by the day, wants to do more work with China. And what are we supposed to do with that? You continue down that path, you will literally end our country. I'm seeing people trolling right now, say Canada, make Canada the 51st state. Well, if we keep going down this path the liberals want us to go down, that could happen. I'll be honest with you. Don't want it to happen. It could happen. Because in response to stuff like this, David Coletto of Abacus Data released this tweet yesterday. And, well, let's just say I was having a decent morning this morning. Then I read this and I was like, I'm not having a good morning anymore. That's not it. Actually, let's just bring this up quickly. This was Donald Trump's, keep this in mind, okay? Trump just posted this on Truth Social like last week. It says if Governor Carney thinks he's going to make Canada a drop-off port for Canada to send goods and products into the United States, he is sorely mistaken. China will eat Canada alive, completely devour it, including the destruction of their businesses, social fabric, and general way of life. If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the USA. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And this is what I'm talking about, is this elbows up crowd and those who claim to be conservative, who also are elbows up, I'm seeing is increasing by the day because they've been so inundated with negative media and false media about the whole trade relationship in general that now they just want to stick it to the U.S. regardless of what it does to us. David Coletto posted this. Let's get in here a bit. It says this, only about half of Canadians think it would be a bad thing if CUSMA came to an end. Think about what that means. Only about half of Canadians think it would be a bad thing if CUSMA came to an end. USMCA. I'll let that sit for a second. Let's let the chat think. What are your thoughts on that, chat? What are your thoughts on this? Only about half of Canadians think it would be a bad thing if CUSMA came to an end. Chat, let us know right now. I'm going to take a sip of water here as those answers come in. I'd be curious to your perspective on that one. Because I'm stunned by that. When I read that this morning, I was like, what in God's green earth is that? Half of our country thinks it would be a bad thing. Only half our country thinks it would be a bad thing if CUSMA came to an end. Meaning half the country thinks it would be a good thing if CUSMA came to an end. Which shows me the lack of education in our country. Goes back to a tweet I shared of Sam Cooper's earlier this week, where the lack of education around geopolitics is severely lacking in this country. And they don't really understand what is going on. And when I read this, I'm realizing, okay, say 100% tariffs, say or it doesn't even have to be 100%. We'll say it's like 20% tariffs across everything in our country. Free trade comes to an end. What do you think happens? What do you think happens? Well, our economy would implode overnight because we are so reliant on the United States. It comes to a point where we can diversify as much as we want without building pipelines and all that. We can keep trying to do whatever Mark Carney's trying to do. It can only do so much. But people have really bought in this idea of like, oh, we just talk to all these other countries. We've diversified. We're good. We don't rely on the United States anymore. Our supply chains are so stinking integrated. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. We have this. Let's go here. Yeah. Stephen McIntyre said this. Canada had a great deal of trade with the U.S. prior to CUSMA. U.S. is still going to need Canadian products. It will hurt Canada, but it will also hurt U.S. Trump's declaration of economic war in Canada will have helped neither side. Much of the motivation for CUSMA was prior to Auto Pact. However, the share of U.S. companies, GM, Ford, Chrysler, and Canadian auto manufacturing has declined steadily over the last 10 years. Honda and Toyota are now by far the largest auto manufacturers in Canada. If CUSMA ends, my guess is that Canadian consumers will migrate to Japanese and Korean brands. Toyota and Honda will both boom, and it will be a body flow to Ford and especially GM and Stellantis. Prices for Canadian commodities in the U.S. will increase and make U.S. manufacturers less competitive. We're seeing a lot of people try to make themselves sound like this is an educated take. It'll all be fine. We were fine before it. We'll be fine after it. Were we fine before it? We were okay. Sure, we were okay before it, but our literally economy flourished after NAFTA came in, thanks to Brian Mulroney. Like, that's kind of how this all works. So for people to joke around as if, oh, we'll be fine, everything will be okay. No, we've only become more reliant on the U.S., and that would severely hurt us immediately. Reg, how you feel, big dog?
Feeling flustered, man.
Yeah.
Because like when I see that figure, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Do people not realize how much we are integrated with the States? Was it 76% of all of our exports go to the States?
Yep.
What are we going to do with that? Also, folks, sorry for being late. I have a good understanding of how long it takes me to get to the studio, but I didn't take into account the cop that was going to sit behind me the whole friggin' way.
Oh, so you had to go the speed limit.
I had to go to the speed limit. So I usually plan out my time with not the speed limit in mind. But when you sent me that figure this morning, I was just like, oh, we are so deeply uneducated in this country about how we actually make money, how we bring money into this country. And it's funny because I've been talking to so many leftists trying to get them to go towards the survey. Yeah. And one of the things that I keep hearing is just like, oh, we just need to tax the rich. Like all of our problems will be solved if we just tax the rich. And
create a banking system through Canada Post.
Yeah. The other one I keep hearing is, what was that? I was just going to say, Canada Post threw me off for a second.
Sorry.
No.
I messed that one up.
It's all good. Tax the rich was the big one. Oh, man, I can't remember. But anyway, just a ridiculous series. Oh, I remember that we need to have more government ownership over private industry. So things like the problem with why we have such bad power rates in places is because we need more government ownership over those power companies. So specifically talking about Nova Scotia, I was like, that's not it. And they were saying, oh, we need government owned grocery stores. That was a big one that they were talking about to bring down food prices. It was just like, we need to consolidate more and more control with this government because they're going to have our best interests at heart. They're definitely not working for themselves and others. Like, this has not been a liberal government riddled with scandals. Like, I think there was an episode we did like maybe 2 years ago where we counted off all the scandals of the Liberal Party. Yeah. And it was like more than you have fingers on two hands. And so for
60 plus, something like that.
Yeah. So for anybody to sit there and think that this Liberal government is going to come up with some way to save us all. Oh, I remember the last one. Print more money.
Oh,
they're just like,
just print more.
Money is a social construct. We just need to print more of it. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. So ridiculous thoughts coming out of some folks. So when I see this about half of Canadians going, we don't need CUSMA. F the Americans, elbows up, any appendage towards them, I'm just like, you are so uneducated, uninformed, and really are just showing the lack of education that we have in our system on how our system actually works and how we bring money into this country. Because you can tax people till they're blue in the face. If the money disappears, it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, I learned this in the education system in Ontario, that how does Ontario get money? We just steal it from Alberta, right? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, but sorry, go on.
I was just saying Quebec, they do.
Yeah, true.
But Quebec also signs deals with other provinces where they put them in situations where they're beholden to support Quebec. Speaking of you, Newfoundland, some bad deals there. So yeah, I look at this and I'm like, this is foundational to how we operate in Canada. If we don't get it, there's two things that could happen. We know we would immediately go into recession immediately. The other thing that would happen is like we could either just kind of like crumble, fall apart, and then get closer to China. Or the other thing that I think that could happen is that they would actually have to change a lot of laws, regulation to spur business investment and development in the country. It could be a blessing in disguise to actually have, the Americans not working with us, and that we actually are forced to do it the hard way. It would be immensely painful. There'd be a lot of people who'd lose their homes, lose their jobs, lose their livelihoods, probably a lot of people who'd lose their lives over it. It would not be a fun time in Canada. It would be a very dark time. But as with every dark time, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So maybe it would be something that, like I said, there's two paths. There's a hopeful path that we would rise up and become better. And then there's the other path where we get further entrenched, and then we see Ukraine, Russia situation, but only in our own country. So who knows? Yeah. I'm hopeful that, we will get a deal, and that our government will work towards a deal with the US, that we won't throw that away, because, the Americans do benefit from some of our product. But this is a government in the States that are like very much saying we want to bring back manufacturing, as you just mentioned a couple minutes ago, bring back the things to the States that made them wealthy, made them the richest middle class in the world. And so they're going to do that.
Yeah. I think, I'm guessing you were listening to the show as you're driving over.
Oh, yeah.
And so you would have caught the piece too, where, it was no mistake that he mentioned China beforehand in Canada. Like, he knew exactly what he's doing. And he talked about China, a lot of people in the US being China oriented who are fighting against his tariffs. Do you know who else is very China oriented? Mark Carney. So these are some conversations that are happening as well, where we need to get, we've seen Mark Carney play chess right now with how he's like, okay, we all know why he's here. He's here to benefit himself and get rich. He wants to get to that he wants to become a billionaire by using the Canadian system to help him do it. So how do we get there? Well, we start orienting different policies to make sure, he enriches this, that, the other. But however, he does need help by being able to do more work in Asia, specifically China. All big business guys want to be able to do work in China. And that's why I'm seeing a lot of this everything is making sense of how it's developed, of like putting the thumb in the eye of Trump, getting people to hate Trump, this, that, the other, because it's forced Canada, or at least it's encouraged Canadians to be like, well, China's not that bad. He's developed this appetite in the Canadian people to be like, yeah, I think we could do work with China. It'd be fine. And he's like, perfect. Now I can start doing trade deals with China. Mm-hmm. The problem is he's got Trump on the other side of this border, who is not happy about that and will act if things get really yucky with us in China.
Yeah, and the other thing you have to take into account too is there's still 43% of the population, who are conservative, that are saying, no, this is a bad idea. We don't want that. The challenge is that even that group of conservatives are still, they're being psyoped by our Canadian media system. Like there's a whole apparatus there that's, scaring them against working with the Americans. It's like, I feel like we forget. We're so deeply connected to these people. Like, our cultures are the same. Like, we have family across the border. Like, I have like cousins and aunts and uncles that live in Boston, and they're going, what is going on? Like, this isn't just one country versus the other. This is like families and generations and trade. Like Nova Scotia, we send a Christmas tree to the States every year because of the help that they gave us. Like, we go down and we help with the wildfires. Like, we're a family, dysfunctional right now for sure. And we've got a crazy uncle that's, kind of running the show, but and we've got a slimy uncle that's running our show. But at the end of the day, like we're family. And so, there's ugly points in it, but to kind of, spit in the eye of your closest allies, I just think it's ridiculous. And I know that there's a lot of people who feel like that's what, Trump has done to Canada, and to some extent, yeah. But I think that there's a lot of it that was just kind of like posturing, that was theatrics. Like everybody forgets that he was like in the movies and in media and in like he's in drama, right? So that's what he's going to do. He's going to create drama so that we get a reaction, so that people are off guard, so they can get a better deal for the States. Because at the end of the day, he's a U.S. first guy. Yeah. And so that's how he's acting. If he was on our hockey team, we'd love him. We just hate him because he's on the other team. So
we have a real world example of this happening right now. Think about all the Toronto Maple Leafs fans and other fans who so badly hate Brad Marchand.
I know you were going to say Marchand.
Well, he played for the Bruins and also plays for the Panthers. Hate him. But as soon as he puts on that Maple Leaf for Team Canada, all of a sudden everyone loves him. That's the same way. You tell me right now you wouldn't want some version of Donald Trump running your country right now. Like someone who's like actually fighting for the core interests of your country. You can disagree that's what's happening or not, but like we would want Mark Carney to do that, but right now he's fighting for all the interests of other countries, which is really concerning for us as Canadians.
And what I'm hearing from the left too is like when they talk about Donald Trump, they're like, oh, he's awful, he's racist, he's all the is and isms and everything like that. And I'm like, did you know that Donald Trump is trying to reduce the interest rate on credit cards down to 10%? And they're like, their brains explode. They're like, oh, what? And then you actually see these people, very left people, who would love that if Bernie Sanders brought it up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But because Donald Trump, they're like they're sitting there like thinking that this must be some mechanism to enrich the overlords of the financial sector. And I'm like, no, they're mad at him over this. They're constantly fighting him. JP Morgan's head came out and said like, this would devastate American credit systems. Like people would stop buying things. People would stop going to grocery stores. People would stop going to restaurants. What are you doing? And it's like, thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? If I had a break of, 20% on a credit card bill, I don't know if that would really stop people from buying unless the credit card companies stopped issuing credit. And that's the way they make money. So if they're getting less money from people, they're going to increase credit. They're not going to decrease it. So
well, here's the thing too, here's another thing to throw your lefty friends when you have this conversation. Ask them who's helping them get that done right now. Mm-hmm. He's working with Elizabeth Warren to get that done right now.
I know.
Like, whoa, cross-party lines, can't do that. Like, this is the stuff that people just don't think about or talk about. And it really it just boggles the mind of so many. And I go back to even the live I did earlier this week, comparing the policies Mark Carney's brought in versus what Donald Trump's been bringing in. One is encouraging ownership for the sole person. The other is turn the person into a renter.
Yeah.
And you tell me who's the good guy in that scenario.
Well, he's the own nothing, be happy crowd, right? So that's, of course, what he's going to do. The thing that I would kind of like bringing this all back to Canadian politics, I would say, aside from Mark Carney, is that I think that the Conservative Party could really learn from some of this. Like put out, say like, yeah, I think it makes sense that credit card companies should only pay 10%. Steal some of those policies. Like if you're being labeled as, Timu Trump, take the best parts of what he's got to offer anyway. Yeah. Like live into that. Say like, yeah, you want to call me Timu Trump? Here's a Trump thing that I'm going to pull that 10% into Canadian conversation. Pull the fact that you can take your mortgage payments and, take that off your income tax. Talk about double taxation. Like start taking the things, like stop running away from this whole like, ew, you're just like Trump. That's what the Canadian media is going to run with, right? Yeah. Lean in. Take it and say, yeah, you think that? Well, here's what we're going to do.
We're going to keep Bay Street from owning any single family homes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that I think I've been very disappointed with how the Conservative Party has been treating Jamil, honestly, because I think Jamil's kind of like really stuck his neck out there for Canadians, and the Canadian media, as we knew, would kind of label him how they did. And the Conservative Party being very quiet behind the scenes. I think that I would like to see the Conservative Party come out full support Jamil and say, no, we are actively trying to work with our American counterparts, our American friends, family, in any way that we can to support the Canadian government. We're being, basically blocked by a Canadian government who says we're not working together and then actively don't work with us. And then at the same time, like I said, just lean into all these stupid narratives that the Canadian media puts out there. Because as Rosemary Barton tells us, it's all made up anyway.
Oh yeah, throw that one in there, eh? Well, there's another piece to that too that I want to really suss out and pull out. And that's the fact of, what are your thoughts on, so you've talked about Jamil Javani and doing what he was doing and sticking his neck out. And what are your, man, I hate this. I just lost my train of thought.
Oh no.
Oh man, I hate when that happens. I hate when this happens. It'll come back. But I think I see where you're coming from on it in terms of, that was it. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think the other thing that would be very interesting for the Conservatives to hit on too is the fact that anytime there's been any type of issue with trade with the U.S. in the past, it's always been a bipartisan approach. Like both parties at the federal level go down, work together on this. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I think this is like one of the first times in our history where we had a very partisan approach to this.
Yeah.
And I think we should bring up some history on this too and bring that out. Be like, hey, this has always been a bipartisan approach. We've always worked together. Why not now?
Yeah. The other thing that I don't understand is I keep hearing people being like, when they're talking about Jamil going down, they're just like, how dare he has no right to go down there, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, are we really? So they're like talking about the government and power. I'm like, he was an elected MP to represent people in Canadian Parliament. The idea that we have somehow, some people have all the power and other people don't. I feel like it's kind of does a disservice to our democracy, because the idea of the democracy is that you have a governing body who is then challenged by the opposition so that they can come together and create the best legislation that, encompasses all diverse voices. Right now, you've got a party that says, we are the overlords, kings of everything. And if you don't like what we do, we're going to label you as obstructionist. And I'm like, where is all the people, diversity is our strength, no kings, all these, you know what I mean? Where are those people at? Yeah. I don't get it. So when we think about a nonpartisan approach to dealing with the states, yeah, we use people with connections that can get us into those spaces that we otherwise might not have access to, that can, grease the social wheels here so that we can get something done in the best interest of our country. And for them to kind of, he's a traitor, what has he denounced? It's just so,
a backbencher.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so I think I want the Conservative Party, like you said, to point out some of these pieces about how, we're supposed to be in this together. We were all elected to run the country. You didn't have a super majority that everybody said, yeah, screw this Conservatives. You represent about half the country right now. Mm-hmm. The other half thinks that Kuzma's a bad idea. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So I think that they really need to have some courage against the Canadian media here and lean into what the Canadian media is saying and doing. Because, like I said, them playing quiet, it's just not working. And I'm worried that if we get to a point where Carney calls a snap election, we're going to run into conservative damage control, playing defense, and just getting the same result that we got before, where we either have a weak liberal majority or just another liberal minority again, which means that we'll spend millions of dollars on an election, everybody get their hopes up for no change again. So yeah, I really want to see them get loud, lean into your integrity. And I loved, I don't know if you're going to show it or not, the clip of them talking about if you aren't with us in the Conservative Party, get lost.
Oh no, I didn't. What? I didn't even see that.
Yeah, so that wasn't. It was the former deputy minister, I think, that had basically, she put out a clip.
Oh, Lisa Raitt.
Thank you.
You're talking about that. Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So and she was just like, you know what? If you're going to leave, just go.
Yeah.
We don't want to do this dance anymore. Just go. We don't want you.
Yeah.
That's what the leaders of the Conservative Party right now should be saying.
It's to some degree. So this is where it gets interesting. Let's talk about this, since I haven't done a post-mortem of everything that's happened this week with someone on the show.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of private conversations. But what was your? It was here. Here I am. Start off the show saying screw everything that happened this week. But I am genuinely curious your perspective on this. So the whole Jenna Rue thing happens, and of course CBC, the CTVs of the world, run the exact same playbook of what they're going to talk about. Well, man, Poilievre's leadership, losing 3 people, that's really detrimental, and we're just going to ignore the multiple that are leaving the Liberal Party as we speak. But okay, we're not going to talk about Carney's leadership when that happens. But what was your perspective on this whole thing kind of laying out and the way the media has predictably covered it, saying, as well as like really criticizing Poilievre's response to it, saying, well, it's such vitriol and how disgusting, and he's just back to normal. I thought the Conservatives were here to work together, and now they're just being mean again. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, you said it right there. It's predictable.
Yeah.
It's all a part of the Liberal playbook. I mean, they're going... Trump is one issue that we can lean on, but we've kind of exhausted Trump quite a bit. Like, the Canadian people are tired of Trump. Like we know it's there. This is why I also think that's why people are saying about Kuzma, is because I don't think it's so much that they actually don't want a trade deal with the States. I think it's just they're so tired of hearing about it because they're promise. And after so many broken promises, they don't care anymore. Yeah. They've become tired. And so that's why I think that they're saying that they don't think it would be a bad idea if we don't have a deal, because they're just like, they're exhausted.
Yeah.
So to see the Canadian media kind of paint Pierre as a bad leader, as, obstructionist, as not working together, as, vitriol and blah, 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 blah. That's all a part of the Liberal playbook so that they can then position Carney as the great unifier, bringing together Canadians, so pro-Canada, blah. So this is where I'm thinking, like, it was all to be expected. The piece that I think that is most intriguing about what happened this week is, like I said, like Lisa Raitt saying that about, the Conservative Party. I would like to see the Conservative Party kind of like maybe address it a little bit better, because I feel like they've been so quiet. And when you are quiet, other people will speak for you. And so I don't know if it's that they don't know how to respond to that, or if they're doing some internal like time away to look into the party and see, like, are there other people that are unhappy? Are there things that we could change? But like, maybe even say like, we're taking some time right now to be reflective. I think people would respond to that. The media will spin it as weakness, but I think that people would see through that for the most part. It's the lack of communication. It's what happened right before the other election.
Right.
When they went dark. It just went dark, and it was like, oh, well, we're waiting. We're gonna release something big. It's like, no. Don't make that same mistake. Keep the line of communication open. Keep owning the narrative. Keep talking about it. Otherwise, if you keep going quiet like this, then it does make me think that maybe you do need new leadership. And then I start buying into the narrative of the CBC on this.
What were your thoughts on Poilievre's released video yesterday about the grocery prices?
I mean, the Conservatives are going to lean into the topics that are important to people, like affordability, grocery prices, like, because he knows, like, when, like, we talked about the grocery rebate coming back and the visceral reaction that people had, like, take your money and shove it. This is, not what we need. It's not going to help me. So that was a really positive indicator for a Feel Good Friday. Like, if we can take anything, like, that was such a positive indicator. So I think them hitting on that is good. I just think that we need more.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll kind of continue on the show here because back to my episode from yesterday afternoon talking about Tim Pool and Laura Ingraham taking notice of things that are happening here in this country. More American media members are starting to call us out. We have Matt Walsh who's saying this, and this was fascinating. So this original post was, I'm not being at all ironic when I say that there is a better argument for invading and overthrowing the Canadian regime than there is for invading and overthrowing anyone else. This is a country committing unspeakable atrocities right next door. And it's, again, referring to the situation with MAID and what's happening. And even conservatives are getting their back up on this. I saw this quite a bit in my comment section. It's like, well, they're conveniently ignoring the 12 U.S. states that have MAID currently. So why are they coming after us? And, well, one stat in particular, I think is partially why, is 6% of our deaths were due to MAID this year.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to these U.S. states, it doesn't even hit 1%.
Yeah.
And it's how we apply it is far more widespread than how these U.S. states apply it. That's where the concerns come from. And people had issue with what Tim Pool said yesterday. Listen to what his words were. He says, sanction Canada until they remove MAID as it currently stands. That's what he said. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying those were his words. He wasn't saying, well, because you guys have MAID, we should sanction you. He's like, no. Look at how you're applying MAID. That's what's getting the attention of all these Americans on the south border right now. So he said this. This got the people going. Polling Canada responds with, sounds like we should ban this mouth breather from our country. And he said this. Well, I don't want to kill myself, castrate my children, commit infanticide, or burn a church, so I really have no reason to go to Canada anyways.
Oh my God. Oh, man. Wow. That's the response. I think that we as Canadians, we need to look inside ourselves if this is how the rest of the world is seeing us, which is concerning. As far as MAID goes, when I look at these things, like you look at the most liberal, progressive left state in the U.S., California, and they don't even come close to the stats on MAID that we have.
Yeah.
I think it's really concerning.
It's the same population.
It's the same population. Yeah. And so when I look at like that and I look at who is accessing it, and when they start talking about expanding it to folks with, mental illness, I was just like, oh my God, do not do that. Do not do that.
Yeah.
We've basically told them that our wonderful free healthcare system cannot help you. So just, remove yourself out of the equation. I think that's horrific. And then the other side of it, I look at things like how we've written it. And I'm like, if I was to ever consider MAID, it would be like if I had, progressive Alzheimer's where the people are waiting for me to swallow my tongue. I have family members who are, who've basically left in spirit, but are there in body because their bodies are strong. And we've mourned their loss and we are waiting for them to pass. Like, how disgusting. Like, I would say, like, in that kind of scenario, I'd like to be able to put in my will that, if I get to that point, use MAID and allow me to exit with grace and dignity. That's the idea behind this. And it's being completely twisted and warped. And like, that's what I worry about with the liberals, is that they'll take a good idea and warp it into something that's like disgusting. And so, yeah, like I don't have a problem with MAID when you use it where it's appropriate, like the very real example I just gave. But taking people who have mental illness and saying, the world would be better off without you, you're right, disgusting. And I fervently think that's a problem, especially when you look at who are the people who are most likely to take their life in the country. Young men.
Yeah.
Young men, far and away, young men who are the most impacted by the ridiculous tax regimes and the destruction of businesses and the destruction of the family group. It's young men. And so I think that it's disgusting when you tie all these things together and you say, like, I think it's an attack on young men in this country. And so bringing it back to Jamil again, I think he's really hitting the nail on the head when he's like, restore the North, let's protect our young men, let's go work with the states. Like, to me, I'm like, you're showing leadership that the rest of the party hasn't caught up to yet. And I would really like to see the Conservative Party back them so that we don't get responses like this out of the States where we look like fools on the world stage and people are laughing at us. And then we've got, everybody with their fingers in their ears saying, no, ban them from the country, take away X, like make sure that any dissenting voices are silenced so that we can all live in our fantasy and print money and have the government run grocery stores. Like, it's just ridiculous. I'm sorry for the tirade, chat.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling, because I go back to my point yesterday. Is like, yes, a lot of these media personalities I'm calling out, Tim Pool, Matt Walsh, Laura Ingraham. We also have Michael Knowles here too, who was talking about the individual who stabbed two of his kids and still got out.
Yeah,
like these are things being talked about down there now. When they're taking notice of it, oh, they're all right wingers. You're correct. They're all right wingers. Who's president right now? And whose administration watches all these shows? That's what concerns me as they go into renegotiations with CUSMA and USMCA, because they take notice of these things. And you don't think that comes into the equation when they have these talks? Well, it's just economics. Just economics. Okay. We're seeing what's happening here, folks. So that's what's more so my concern at this present time. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I didn't have that on split screen, folks. So this is kind of where like I wanted to get into that just because you said it perfectly, Reg, where you can just ignore all this as if it's not happening. They don't get our context. They don't get our policies. They just don't get it. It's working. It's all working. Is it? We have an outsiders looking at our stuff saying, this kind of seems ridiculous. In the same way how we look at with some of the stuff they do, saying, that seems kind of ridiculous. And they said, you don't get it. We'll talk about the elephant in the room, shall we? Firearms. In the Canadian context, most Canadians don't get the gun culture in the United States. And the U.S. looks at us and says, how don't you get it? Shut up. It's the same reaction, right? And so it just comes back down to take a serious, honest look at yourself and your policies. Maybe there's some degree of what they're saying is true. And maybe we need to kind of pull it back a little bit and find our humanity again. That's simple. But let's hit the chat a little bit here before we move on. All right. Woo!
Oh, we missed a lot.
We didn't miss anything. This is that's why we do a halfway check-in. All right. Michelle, C9I says, we would not have a middle class in Canada without free trade. True. Proud Grammy says, we think things are bad now. Without Kuzma, we would instantly be a third world country. I won't know instantly, but we could get there.
Yeah.
We could get there.
Like I said, it would be extremely painful.
Yeah.
It would be very bad for a while. And like I said, there's a couple scenarios that could play out. One where we actually become stronger through the pain, or two where we succumb to it. So hopefully we get better.
For sure.
And hopefully we don't even come to that decision, honestly.
For sure. Rav Buffalo says, hi, Josh and Reg. Happy Feel Good Friday. Need some levity. With the end of the Tuesday night live show, is day drinking okay on the Feel Good Friday show?
You know what? You do you, sir. Whatever gets you through the day.
Well, we have half of this left, so I don't know. I'm just kidding. That was full before Reg. No, I was kidding.
I did bring it too.
Yeah.
But it was full when I brought it to the show, though.
This morning. No, that was a joke I was making. Yeah, no, it's there will be some levity. We're going to be ending this on a precipice here, which we're excited about.
Yeah, I've got some data that I want to share with you all that will definitely make you feel good.
Absolutely.
So we'll get to it.
Just Me Nicole says Trump doesn't take a paycheck either. A formal paycheck as a president. Yes, that's true. I think it might still be true. I know it was true at one point. Mm-hmm. But John Gotti, T7N, says, wouldn't it make more sense for conservatives to focus on voters under 50, housing, tax relief, cost of living? Why keep accommodating boomers? I agree with that strategy, and that's kind of a strategy they're currently incorporating.
Yeah.
It's just the issue is they might need to have a little bit more of a robust approach with how to counteract the overt attacks from the outside that get a lot more play and get loud. And so sometimes they have to kind of lean into that, as you were saying.
The other part with the younger crowd that's really difficult that I don't think that people take into account is when you look at the school system, who is educating these folks? Who is, we've been told that we all have to go to university. I've been in university for many years with lots of pieces of paper I can throw on the wall. And the ideology that's being pushed is very much a left-wing ideology. So you're breeding liberal voters right from the age of 5 all the way up to 25, right? So they are going after the younger vote because those are the people that are most impacted by these bad policies. But the challenge is that they're fighting an uphill battle where they're fighting 25 years of indoctrination. So it is going to be something that's going to be challenging. Like I said, I can say from my own experience, I don't know if this applies to everyone, but I've written reports where you argue the other side of an issue that is not the left-wing liberal narrative, and your grades fall because of it. And it's, I didn't like that. I don't think that's how it actually is. I don't think the sources you used are credible enough. And it's like, well, I'm using peer-reviewed journals to back up what I'm saying. No, sorry, we don't like those ones. Those ones didn't come from so you know what I mean? Like those people are really kind of going after your kids and forcing an ideology out there. So you are going to have a tough time as a Conservative Party to try and counter that programming.
Well, and there's the thing too. I was talking to a student this week, just some issues they were having with a prof, and the prof just seemed to be unreasonable. And they had just written a paper that didn't get a very, very good grade on. And they asked, like, what did I do wrong? Like, I properly cited my sources. I felt like I broke down my argument very well. Why? And the prof's answer was, you're right. It was well written. You cited things properly. I just didn't like your thinking in it. And it was a poli-sci course. And this person took a conservative approach. And like, this is the issue that we're having right now. So, Mark Blanco, coming straight from Naples, Florida, dropping $1, $2, $5, $10 on the homies just for the sake of having fun.
He's creating that yellow wall there.
Yeah. Holy jump, that's hilarious. John Goddard, T7N, says Canada's biggest miss was not joining the U.S.-led Pax Silica Alliance last year, aimed at securing the AI and semiconductor supply chain. I need to do more research on that. I totally missed that. And seems like our government did too.
Yeah.
I need to look into that. Thank you, John Goddard, for bringing that up.
We've had so much ridiculous things happen in our political environment this past year that we've had an election that felt weird. Yeah. We've had multiple scandals. So I don't think it's like really a fault of anybody that we've missed this, especially when our Canadian liberal media apparatus probably wanted us to miss this one too. So
for sure.
Thank you for bringing that back. We'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Blanco says, please watch the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize presentation and have your next live to talk about it. I'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
That might be fun for sure.
Definitely.
I'm a conservative boomer. The brainwashing of Canadians is in full force. We are doomed if we don't stop it. Keep up the good work, guys. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Honestly, thank you for that. Because, sometimes it is like, holy crap, are we making any kind of a difference? Are we helping in any way? Because I think that as conservatives, we do want to help. Mm-hmm. So, appreciate the comment.
Yeah, I go back to something I said even just earlier this week, where we're starting to see this splitting already in terms of news consumption in the country, where there's a chunk of the country that watches stuff like us, shows like ours, and the other half that's still watching CBC. Even there's now this huge diversion of like what they see happening in our country, which is creating even more of a big social divide. Why Mark Miller also wants to kind of end that.
Yep.
Corey Ferreira dropping $2.79 on the show. Thank you. Mark Blanco coming in hot again with $10, saying America's not your enemy. You're being eaten up from the inside. Watch the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize presentation in full and you will wake up. Dude, this is the thing. So I have no idea what Mark looks like. He's been watching our show for a little bit of time now. He's always dropping dollars on the show every morning. And I just think this guy, I view him just sitting on a beach in a chair with his phone out watching us, just being like, these guys. Enjoying the nice sunshine in sunny Florida.
I kind of picture him as being like a highly successful businessman that's like basically come up with a multi-million-dollar company, sold it off, and is now able to enjoy his life. That's kind of like what
you've expanded on like his life.
Yeah.
I like that. You're thinking of the whole life. I'm thinking about the specific situation. I love that. Proud Grammy says, with the education / indoctrination, that's where parents come in. Properly teach your kids. Counteract. Yes. Super critical. As you're a parent, I'm slowly becoming a parent.
What do you mean slow? You got a kid.
Yeah, but he doesn't have like thoughts or ideas yet. So that's a different story.
Oh man, I like totally off topic, but I'll tell you. So Adeline, my oldest daughter, she asked me the other day, she's like, Dad, what's a conscience? And I'm like, whoa, you are 3. I thought we would have the idea of like, what's the difference between a boy and a girl here long before we asked what a conscience was. And so I said to her, I was like, when you want something and then you can either take it or you can ask daddy and mommy for it. And she goes, yeah. I said, well, that little voice in your head that says, just take it or, ask nicely. I said, that's your conscience. I was like, it's telling you what you should do and what's right and wrong. And she goes, oh, okay. So can I ask mommy and daddy and then take the cookie? And I was like, well, we're going to work on that conscience a little bit.
I can do both, right?
I was like, I like this, like the wheeling and dealing already at that age, but it was just funny to kind of like get that question. And I think that it just really highlighted for me, like how important it is going to be to make sure that I'm putting the values into her to kind of be able to stand up to some of the brainwashing, the rhetoric, the things that are going to come our way, where, you know, she's going to be coming home from school and saying, Dad, they've said this, but you've always said this. Like, what's going on? And so you're right, Proud Grammy. I think it is on our parents and people as parents to really make sure that we're instilling good values into our kids, making sure that we're instilling the value of discernment, the value of listening, and then the value of standing up for your values. And I think that, as your name implies, Proud Grammy, I think it's on grandparents too to be involved and to be a part of this, because they have knowledge, wisdom, and history that we don't have yet. And as parents, we're tired. We're working multiple jobs to live in Canada's, you know, ridiculous economy in Carney's world. So we're going to rely on you as grandparents to really help with that guidance and, you know, support us. So thank you for the comment there, but I do think it is on parents, but also grandparents.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it too, with parents, it's also really trying your best. As you mentioned there, Reg, people are really busy having to kind of keep up with everything. But it's so critical you be present with your kids. You can say all the perfect things in the world and tell them everything they need to know, and you could say the most perfect way possible. But if you're not present with your kids and not showing them that you care genuinely about their being, then those ideals and perspectives are not going to stick, because then the system will come in and show them that we do care. We're very kind, thoughtful people. And there's like, oh, the government does love me. And then there we go.
The banks are your friend. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I just show this plastic thing and I just get things with it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that still has permeated the minds of Canadians, where they just think that, oh yeah, money's a concept that we can just print limitlessly.
I do find, I'll actually put this out there. I do find it fascinating where I find the Canadian population takes after the fiscal responsibility of its government, which, like, you know, people were fairly responsible under a conservative government, I found. But I find, and a part of it too is the economy is terrible, so people keep having to take debt. But I find like people are more willing to take on debt underneath this liberal government than they saw under the previous government.
I think it's a coping mechanism, honestly. I've seen a lot of people that are just like, well, the world's going to crap, so might as well get mine right now. So they're taking on debt because it's a coping mechanism of like, life is really bad under this liberal government. I need something to make myself feel good. I need something to make me think that everything's going to be okay, and to distract me from the ridiculousness that is this government. And I think it's a bit of a cry of hopelessness, where people are just like, it doesn't matter. And, you know, it comes back to like, this is a government that pushes that the world is going to burn because of climate change, that the world is a divided, dark, scary, fractured, ruptured place, like, you know, all this language, right? And so that plays on the psyche of people, and I really have a lot of empathy for those folks who do. And then they look and they're like, people are losing their jobs, you know, I'm not going to have a retirement, I can't afford a home. And so all these things compounded are basically, you know, eating away at the mental health of Canadians. And we see that in our reports on the quality of life. So they're taking on more debt and being more reckless because they don't have hope. And so under a conservative government, you're seeing like the economy do better. So people actually like, oh, I should save for the future. Oh, I can do these things because there's a path forward that I can see. Whereas with the liberal government, people are just like, nah, it's all hopeless and crappy anyway. So what the hell? Put in the in-ground swimming pool. Somebody else will pay for it.
Yeah, true. That's fair. Peter Chinaka says, the Conservatives have to break out of the hold of the MSM, and PP needs to have the courage to call the media out more aggressively, to leverage U.S. media / Fox News and podcasts. What has he got to lose? I hear what you're saying. I think there is some truth to what you were saying. It has to be a very thoughtful approach, though, where there has to be purpose behind every decision made. It can't just be like this, like, we're just going to spray everything. You know, it just has to be very thoughtful, like we saw with Jamil Jamani. Like, it has to be thoughtful. I did find it a slight misstep to give an interview to Breitbart. That was the one thing I'll say was probably not a great idea. However, aside from that, I think what he did was good. So, but of course, what got the headlines? Hissy fit. Like,
yeah.
No one, not what the food inflation's been. not been none of the things that have been happening under these liberal government and their policies. It's been the hissy fit. So, Mark Blancos. Oh, sorry. Brad Gramley says, absolutely us grandparents too. We are teaching our adult kids as well. Way to be. Let's go. Let's go. Mark Blanco says, Canada migration rates highest in G7. Canada's immigration population share of 23% in 2021 is the highest among G7 nations. Per capita leadership, Canada consistently ranks among the top. Yes.
And the reason for that is because of how we measure our GDP, right? Yeah. So as we bring in population to try and show that our GDP is fine, we're safe. Everything's all good. We're doing the best in the G7, they'll tell you, which is overtly false. But when you actually look at things, I'm trying to remember his name now. He's a real estate agent out of Ontario that does a lot of economic breakdowns. Name is gone.
Daniel Foch.
Daniel Foch, thank you. He always talks about the GDP per capita. And so GDP per capita was actually a way better measure. And if you went by that, we have been in a recession for many years now. But they are artificially creating wealth in our country by immigrating all these folks. And the other thing that this does is it actually creates a kind of a perverse relationship with our housing, where we count our housing value as part of our GDP value. And so real estate and retail actually makes up a big chunk of it. And so when you bring in more people, which creates a strain on the supply of housing, you increase the value of our houses, which then makes our GDP look like it's growing. So you've added folks, so you've added GDP there, and you've artificially increased the value of our houses because of poor supply, which also makes our GDP look better, and it keeps us out of that recession zone. And it's all fake. Mm-hmm. So that's why the immigration, you're seeing it at the point it is. But the thing right now is people are fighting back on the provincial level, because the provinces are saying that's well and great for you, Ottawa, but we're the ones that are dealing with the overrunning emergency rooms and the school system that can't take in the kids, and the social supports that are needed for these folks that we just don't have the money for, because of the way that we've divided our constitutional powers. All these supports and social programs are covered by the provinces, and they're saying, we're breaking at the seams. It's why we saw Daniel Smith last night talking about the referendum votes and how they're going to make immigration a key topic in the referendum vote in October, is because she's talking about the fact that we can't let Ottawa just run the show with immigration in Alberta, because they can't afford it. Their health system can't afford it. Their school system can't afford it. So that's why immigration is such a huge thing that we can't lose an eye on. And I think the Conservatives have done a good job trying to bring a light to that. But I think it'd be interesting to see what they respond to today in light of everything that Daniel Smith talked about last night in her press conference.
I agree with that. We got to do a speed run here. I thought this was interesting. A food professor brought this up. Says, sorry, fellow Canadians, you were severely gaslit this week about why food prices are rising. Several liberal-leaning academics and quote-unquote experts, all based in Ontario, by the way, blamed virtually every factor under the sun except Ottawa's own policies. Here are some of the most questionable explanations I heard this week. Consumers want more beef. It's their fault. It's Trump. It's COVID. Without Ottawa, it could be worse. It's Ukraine.
Oh my God, Sylvain did such a good job with that. That's hilarious.
That's so good. And Katie Merrifield brought this up, which is Poilievre's director of comms. Reposted this and said, I urge the esteemed members of the Parliamentary Press Gallery to please ask the Liberals and the Prime Minister even one time next week why Canada has the highest food inflation in the G7. Millions of Canadians are experiencing hunger and using food banks. This is not okay. And this comes back to the issue we brought up, is the media actively ignores the issues that are actually impacting Canadians and focusing on Matt Genereux.
Yeah.
Our media is such a joke. And the reason, they wonder why they're losing credibility by the day. And this is why.
Yeah, and independent media needs to also be amplifying this too. Mm-hmm. We can't play into the games of who is Matt Genereux been with in Ottawa? We can't do that. That's so immature. We need to make sure that we're amplifying this message.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more. We'll hit a couple more super chats, then Reg has got an announcement, and then we got to go.
We got a hockey game to watch, guys.
There it is. Vicky Mendonga, Norfolk. Wow, I butchered that. 9434. What is your opinions on Carnival's liberal puppets allowing immigrant citizenship to join Canada's military. Well, luckily I talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
And it solves the problem. So Trump is putting pressure on Canada to figure out their military, which we've been ignoring for a decade at this point. So now we're trying to restore it. The problem is we've had no kids. We are struggling to grow our population. We're artificially growing our population. And now we have to boost our military with no Canadian citizens who want to join. So how do we do this? Well, we have to then bring in more people to fill out that military. And well, that solves the current issue we have with our military, but it's going to create a lot more issues for us down the road.
Yeah, because I'm like, do these people have a lot of strong alliances to Canada? What happens if, we get into a hot conflict and these folks that, who have come in as immigrants don't want to fight that battle? Yeah. So it's when you think about who joins the military, it's been traditionally like the right that has joined the military. And right now they're not, because they don't agree with this government. Yeah. So I think that it speaks to the fact that if you can't convince the people who normally would take up arms for a country to do so, maybe we need to have a leadership review of this country.
Ooh. Let's actually pull this up here. Okay. Mark Glombaco says, migration is about votes. The Liberals cheat in any way they can. What better way than to bring in dependent people? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually been Liberal strategy for decades at this point.
Yeah, we found out recently that's why the Quebec referendum for separation didn't go through, is because the federal government at the time brought in immigrants to actually change the vote in that province.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, it was like that was something that was quietly released recently, that they actually found that out, that there was interference, and I was just like, where was everybody talking about this?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. So did shady immigration policy save our country?
I guess so.
That depends your perspective, I guess. Yeah. John Gotti, he said, that's crazy. I can't get that out of my head now. Says, interesting timing around former potential NDP floor crosser Laurie Ildvoet from Ottawa announced $50 million for Canada's first Inuit-led university and $178 million for Inuit programs in Nunavut yesterday. Majority incoming.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't think majority incoming. I don't know. I think that if they keep getting floor crossers, I think people will get upset, because I think people will kind of just like call this out as what it is. It's an artificial democracy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that they can see this as a backup plan, but I think that their main plan is actually to go to an early election.
Yeah, I think because you still need 3 more.
Yeah,
and like that would be very egregious. And like, it's already been crazy as it is. So.
Yeah.
Alex Pittman 3632 says, did you watch the NDP leadership debate last night? Wasn't sure if it was comedy skit or just pure insanity. You the night? Well, I only caught some clips this morning on it, and I also tweeted about it this morning, where someone asked if I was going to be live streaming that, and I said no, because it's going to be a joke. And well, I was right. Holy jump, and that was a joke.
Yeah, I saw a highlight reel from that, and I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't spend my evening watching that.
Gee, for real. Actually, on that note, Eve Angler showed up to it, eh? Caused all kinds of ruckus in there.
Oh, no way. Yeah. I didn't see this.
Yeah, this was great.
Let members decide! Let members decide! No Democracy Party! No Democracy Party! Let members decide! No Democracy Party! No Democracy Party! Let members decide! Let members decide! No Democracy Party!
Oh, man. Looks like the NDP got their own PPCers over here.
I know. No Democracy Party. That's kind of funny.
That is funny.
Oh, man.
I love that. All right. Lazarus 8447 says, you watch Canadian MSM and it's wow gaslighting. Then you watch American media and they tell us the actual truth. No wonder they want to block it here. Well, truth's relative at this point in time when it comes to media, but I see where you're coming from on it, where they speak more to what's happening at a wider lens. We focus on these like really small pocket issues that are coming out of Ottawa, and they intentionally don't talk about the issues that are happening. So I get what you're saying, but got to follow the dollar on any news outlet.
Oh yeah, so. Be critical of the American media apparatus. Like, they're not innocent folks.
Yeah,
they're not exactly 2 guys out here in a studio trying to like do some good in the world. They're they're in there for the dollar. So,
Well, yeah. Oh, did you see that happen on Kevin O'Leary last night, where they roasted him for saying you guys are nuts? So good.
Kevin O'Leary's been killing me. I don't know if you've seen him with like all the videos of him, like him in the media, and then like him with his pajama pants and sandals on. I'm like, God, I love that. That's awesome.
So cool. The Smutty Truth says, love always wins. Stay clear, stay focused. Clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. That's a solid reference, by the way. Lazarus 8447 says, why would right-leaning men sign up for the military when the government and country have been shitting on us for the last how many years?
Exactly.
Yep, you spoke to exactly what Rich said.
Exactly what we said.
All right, we are going to jump to the end here, which is Reg has some stuff to show us.
All right, so really, we're going to speed run this, but I wanted to do this basically as a big thank you to everybody who did the survey. We had, I think it was 834 responses, I think, to that survey. It was only live for about a week.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can zoom in on this, but it's not letting me.
Basically, what I'll tell you is this is just some demographics for you. So I want to thank our over 55 crowd. You guys really came out strong. You made up over 50% of the respondents in this, and really appreciate that. Ontario, Alberta, and BC came out really strong with some support for this. So really appreciate you guys actually talking about this. The other thing that I'll say is that the results that I'm going to show you, they're primarily for us. It's a Feel Good Friday. It's for you folks as conservatives. Go to the next slide there. Because as you can see, almost 93% of you identify as conservative. So I was going to do some more breakdowns of this, but I was like, it's not worth it because there's just not enough Liberal Party and New Democratic Party supporters to actually say anything. But we can say a lot about the folks that you are that who fill this out. So if we go to the next one. So in the past 12 months, what are the following have you done at least once without being paid? So this specifically talked to volunteerism, and I'll just give you a quick reason why I focused on volunteerism in this one. I was sick of hearing that conservatives are evil, that conservatives don't care about their community, that conservatives are bad people, and that they're self-interested. That drove me absolutely bonkers. The other part of it too is that I was sick of hearing about how the Liberals are so much better than us. And I knew that the Liberal respondents would not do anything with me if I came out with a hot and heavy, like, do you believe in climate change, or do you think the vaccine was bad? Or like, I knew I had to soften the blow for them. So it was a two-parter. I made it softer to begin with because I wanted to make sure that we could try and show that the lefties that like we're not completely partisan and not scare them away. But at the same time, I really did want to fight this narrative of like, you know, what they're saying about conservatives. And I wanted to know what we actually think as conservatives. And so, yeah, so going back to that slide just really quickly. So most of you are donating food, clothing, supplies, and money to people. Fantastic. Like those who are in need, you're supporting them in that way. And you're helping people who are outside of your household and outside of your family. Because that was another thing I heard from some folks where they're like, oh, conservatives may be helping, but they're only helping their own. And I'm like, that's not true at all. You're helping your community, which is fantastic. The next one, what were the main reasons? Overwhelmingly, 62% of people, their top response, 482 people saying to help people in need. Like, that's awesome. Like that to me, like that's the good news story of the day. It's like you are out there, you are donating time, money, effort, care to your communities because you care about the people who are in need. And then kind of looking at the next pieces in that, it's to support a cause I believe in, to strengthen my community, and for personal fulfillment. So you're saying this makes me feel good about what I'm doing and how I'm living my life to help others, and it's strengthening my community. They came in exactly the same at 24%. So the next one there, this was just kind of an interesting one too, because I asked about like, should government play a major role? And overwhelmingly, like half of folks said like they either strongly disagree or disagree. And then, another almost quarter of folks saying that they neither agree or disagree about government playing the role. And I think that's indicative of the fact that most of you are out there doing the work yourselves in your communities, helping others. So you're like, get government out of this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're doing the work. Just get out of the way. And then the next one, I kind of did break down a little bit around, how folks are interacting with politics. And so I thought that this was kind of interesting. Almost overwhelmingly, everybody who answered the survey got 100% on whether they discussed politics with friends. But I thought it was interesting how people are actually interacting with politics. So New Democrats, they're signing petitions online. They're going to protests. Yeah. PPC, they're also signing petitions online. But they're also like contacting their elected officials. They're posting stuff online. So like they're kind of more in that realm of things. And if you go to the next one, conservatives, what we're doing is we're signing petitions. We are donating. This was the highest, and which actually speaks to kind of like the other piece around like how people are interacting in their community. They're donating to charity, they're donating to the community, and they're also donating to people that they support. And we see that every day on the show too, which is fantastic. Yeah. So it doesn't go unnoticed. It's appreciated and it helps. And then with liberals, they're kind of like, they're just talking about it. They're posting some things online. They're signing petitions. They're attending some meetings. They were kind of like, to be fair, like we only had like 20 respondents for the Liberal Party. So that data is going to be pretty skewed to what those 20 people have said. But they're not really doing a whole lot. The heavy lifting is actually coming from our mainstream media. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at how people are interacting in the system, it's just kind of funny because like you got your far left who are signing petitions, going to the protests. You've got PPC who are posting the stuff online and signing petitions. You've got conservatives who are actually like donating money and, trying to support how they can. And then you've got the liberals who are just kind of letting the system do the work for them. So
interesting.
Just kind of a fun early analysis for you folks. There will be a full report that comes out later, and we're working on the next one, which is going to be all around affordability. So thank you for all of the response you gave. Like I said, over 800 people. So really, really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Well, that was great. Thank you for doing that. And thanks to all you guys for responding to that survey. And we will keep you guys updated on how that all goes. And we have a hockey game coming up here in about 30 minutes. So, yeah, we're caught up. We're good. And I
gotta put that camera. I'm over here watching the the comments.
But otherwise, yeah, there's lots going on. But you guys are fantastic. So, whatever it is you're doing, whether you be doing hip thrusts at the gym.
Oh, that was specific.
Yeah.
Or reading polling data.
Or getting ready to watch an amazing semifinal hockey game. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are. We love you. We're out. Peace. Just making a call up anyway. Oh,